I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is On the Other Side of Things, the Smith & Sniff spin-off in which we answer your questions. Yes, we're back answering more of your questions. Hi, guys. We'll start with a question from a listener called Andrew. His question comes with a story.
I love a story.
He says, last week I was in the fortunate position to be driving my 986 Boxster back from southern France, listening to the cast as I smugly sped through the north.
Spread my driving legs.
Most pertinently, I was listening to the discussion on the grassy tickle.
Oh, yeah.
The gentle throttle use on a grassy surface.
It's so good.
To achieve wheel spin. And he says 3M themselves couldn't engineer a surface as frictionless as the polished smooth stone of a provincial European town square after overnight rain.
Oh, gosh, okay.
Spending the night in Rouen, and perhaps a little dusty from watching the previous evening's France-Spain game in the local bar, I set off in search of an early morning croissant espresso combo before departing for the ferry. Because I am a stroker, I hope to park my Boxster outside an aesthetic boulangerie to admire my steed and reflect on the happy 2,000 miles we just covered as the caffeine breathed life into me. Painting pictures.
I was going to say, I'm enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this.
Anyway, Andrew,
and I'm a bit of a 986 stroker.
Well, kindred spirits here. So Andrew says, I inexplicably ended up driving through a part of the city that many would describe as pedestrianised, though I didn't willfully flaunt any noticeable signage. Confusion setting in, and now looking for the fastest possible exit, I took a 90-degree right onto Rouen main avenue.
Oh, shit.
Paved with that smooth stone. I was at little more than walking pace in first gear. The back unexpectedly came around and was matched by a spike of revs and a dab of Oppo to drive through the small slide. My childish glee was rapidly replaced by utter shame, as I have never experienced sheer hatred quite like being seen driving a cheap British-registered Porsche convertible sideways through a possibly pedestrianised area of a French student town.
So hang on, he was pavement drifting?
Apparently so. I mean, it's a good observation. That smooth stone that you do get in a lot of Euro towns is a bit of an ice rink after a bit of rain.
Oh, hell yeah.
It got me thinking, I'm surely not alone in making such an automotive faux pas in a foreign country. So his question is, what is the biggest automotive faux pas you've made on the continent?
Well, on the continent, I've done a few things.
But did you not drive into a pedestrianised area somewhere?
Oh yeah, I did. When I first left university and I moved to Chester, and I was not familiar with Chester, having never been to that city before living in it. I accidentally drove into the full pedestrianised zone in the middle of the day on Saturday, and it's a very busy shopping city. And I was in, I don't know, quite a subtle car. I was in my Mark 1 Ford Granada that was green metal flake paint and about an inch off the ground.
Yes.
And I was in total confusion as to how I'd done it. Because I was trying to find sort of the loop round to get back out, and it just didn't exist. I couldn't work it out, and I was a bit dim, and I was only 19 years old. And so I was getting people shouting at me. I was getting people banging on the window.
Oh, God.
They were really cross. But once I was in.
What time of day was this?
Like 2 p.m. on a Saturday. It was really, really busy. This was sort of pre-internet shopping as well, so it was busy high street. Yeah, it was an absolute bastard. I felt really... I mean, I didn't lose the back end like Captain Boxster.
But I would have really sealed the deal. I suppose Chester is, last I checked, not officially on the continent, but I feel between the Boxster and the accidentally driving into a pedestrianised area, you and Andrew are kindred spirits.
I've accidentally... I mean, I got a real bollocking and like a fine for, and this has been known before because it was on camera on Fifth Gear. I accidentally threw a sandwich at a policeman
What?
On the motorway.
Oh.
It was a mounted policeman on a motorbike in our
Yes.
blind spot.
Yeah. And you threw a sandwich out the window.
I sort of dropped a sandwich out of the slit in the window. Quite a large piece of sandwich because it was soggy and horrible. And apparently it hit the motorway cop had his visor up and it hit him square in the face. And he went absolutely batshit crazy. And he didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Spanish. And he pretty much dragged us to a cash point.
What?
And we had to give him €200.
What? I was going to say, is there a structured ladder of fines in Spain for which food stuff hits the cop in the face?
The thing is, he was so... Okay, I'll gloss over it and make it brief. It is on camera. It was a Seat Ibiza Eco Motive.
Was this when you and Wookie were in the car together?
Yeah, we drove across Spain on one tank of fuel.
Yeah.
And we ended up trying to get into a club at the other end, and we didn't. Yeah, it was a long day. But I ended up being a little bit argumentative with the policeman. I kept shouting at him towards the end that it's biodegradable and it's not litter. Because he was claiming that...
it was on the litter tip rather than the hitting a policeman in the face.
He was claiming I was just liberally littering. And I was going, but it's a foodstuff. It's compostable.
Yeah.
So, and I'm standing by that, Rich.
Like when once during summer holidays, one of my schoolmates, we were all back home, and one of my schoolmates had this friend of his from university come to visit, who was this proper like Yorkshire lad, and he was hilarious, and we went out boozing in Wilmslow, and then we went for a kebab, and we're standing outside the kebab shop, and he was picking all of this lettuce and tomato out of his kebab and just dropping it on the pavement. And this, I don't know, this must have been sort of like 11 o'clock at night at least, but this old lady...
Salad avoider.
Yeah. He didn't want, too much of that muck in his kebab. And this old lady walked past that time of night, and she went, "Oh, look, you've made a terrible mess here." And he went, "It's organic, now fuck off."
No, he didn't.
Yes. Which I didn't really know where to look.
Oh, gosh, that's bad.
I feel like he might have overreacted. I mean, it's organic, yes, that is a valid point, but the rest of it was a little unnecessary.
Well, the next thing is actually, it's not a question. It's an answer to something I said regarding... there's a lot of dongs and wangs in the Chinese market vehicles. And why is that? So we've got a patron called Wilson Lin. And Wilson has said, "Allow me to shed some light on Johnny's query. There are 4 tones in each of the Chinese phonetics, and that will yield different meanings. True, Wang can mean king, but it also can represent vision or prosperity, depending on which tone you read it. If that impression came after seeing that BYD Yang Wang U9 from Festival of Speed, seek no further. Yang Wang just means raising, in brackets, your... out close brackets sight/vision, possibly to imply raising the bar or some form of pride on that side of things." I'm sure the Chinese didn't write on that side of things in the Yang.
I would love to see that
in the Yang Wang press release,
the Cantonese script or something.
But Wilson's also said, trivial. The Chinese love raising their SUV YUE, since it literally can represent overlanding. In the same context, it can also be inferred as scaling new heights or whatever beautiful image the marketeer wishes to create. That is really interesting.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Wilson.
It's a two-way street now on this show, getting listeners answering our questions.
I mean,
as well.
Well, they're always more intelligent than us.
Yes.
So I appreciate that immensely.
It's a true and observable fact.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Wilson. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And way more informed than anything that we could ever come up with about anything. But on we plug. Harry Evans asks, he said, well, this relates to a stitch back to a live show where you talked about the acrimonious rally. Yes, we did. That the idea was that you take part, but the driver and the co-driver must have fallen out to some degree about something minor unrelated to rallying.
They had a spat the week before.
About one of them having a nicer hotel room or something.
One of them flirting with the other one's wife.
Yeah,
at
that would
dinner.
be admissible. Yeah. So Harry's question is, if you were to enter the acrimonious rally as a driver/co-driver pairing, which one of you would drive and who would co-drive, and what car would you be in? Also, as it's the acrimonious rally, what would you have fallen out about before the event?
This is good.
God, I don't know.
That's a really good question.
I don't
know either.
Because...
Are you a good passenger? Are you good at looking down when we're going flat out?
No.
Because the thing is, if you're not, then you've got to drive.
I'd rather drive.
Because I have co-driven.
Oh.
And I can do it.
Okay, well, there you go.
I'm not going to just spew and like fall about. So I would say, I guess you drive, I'd I'd give you so much coffee to start with because I'd want you to be properly jittering on the ball.
Is that what we could have fallen out about? Is that you've given me so much coffee and it's too strong, and actually I feel like I really need to go to the loo?
Yeah, you're busting for a waz, and I'm saying, we'll complete the stage quicker.
Oh, yeah.
And you can have a big piss.
And I'm really cross about this is your coaching technique for getting better driving out of me. So maybe that's it.
But I also woke you up in the middle of the night with a shipping horn, and you were really pissed off on that.
For no reason at all.
Yeah.
Or because you thought I should do 20 press-ups so I'm match fit for steering the car.
Oh, yeah.
The final bit of Harry's question is, what car would you be in?
Well, I mean, it depends whether we're doing a historic rally or a modern-day rally. But we were talking about it not that long ago on the podcast about the Peugeot 405 Dakar.
Oh.
That chop-down thing that...
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I really like that car because it's such a mutant.
Yeah, I mean, they're bloody great, though, aren't they?
They are bloody great.
Well, but is that... I was going to say that somehow we've ended up with something that's a little bit too big for rallying. like when Ford realised that the Sierra was a bit too big and had to come out the Escort Cosworth. Or Subaru used to rally Legacies and then went, you know what, guys, these are too big.
Yeah.
But I think maybe, without consulting me, you've realised, we seem to mention these a lot recently, but you've realised how cheap Bentley Flying Spurs are, and you've bought one of those on the basis, well, it's powerful, it's four-wheel drive, and
what
they're cheap.
Hell? Yeah.
So, yeah, and they're pretty strong, because remember James May did that thing with a Continental GT on Top Gear where he went rallying with Chris Meek.
Yeah.
And it stood up to that brilliantly. So they're great rally cars, and you've bought one without consulting me, and that's what we've fallen out about, is because I've gone, but it's too big, and you'll be like, it's fine. I'm doing the Kill the Forest, you twat. How is it fine?
And also, when I was on the Land's End trial at Easter, I said hi and nodded to Dave Richards from ProDrive. Yeah. So there's less than 1% of a chance that I could tap him up using that in and go, hey, Dave, we nodded in the middle of the night in the Land's End trial. Could I have some composite panels and also maybe some seam welding, extensive seam welding done?
Some extremely expensive rally spec shocks.
Yeah.
Did
Thanks,
you say
Dave.
hey or hi to him?
Hi, okay. And I nodded.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
he didn't say anything back?
No, but I realised he's one of these guys. I like him a lot, and he's obviously a very talented guy at what he does. But he's also got a lion's head. He looks a little bit like a lion
head.
Yeah, he has. He's
like John Bon Jovi, as you pointed out the other day.
Yeah,
has a lion head.
He's got a lion head. But Dave Richards does look like a friendly lion.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I was once in a meeting with him about a telly project that never came off. And it was a load of ProDrive people, and then he came and joined late.
Was it called Celebrity Lionhead?
Celebrity Lionhead Rally. And we were there going, I mean, it's a great idea, guys, but who are we going to get to do it? And then at that moment, Dave Richards walked in. We were yeah.
Or was it Metro Goldwyn Mayer said, look, we've got to spice up our new intro. Yeah. We're looking for men who look like lions.
Who else looks like a lion? Someone else is sort of bothering me that looks like a lion, but I can't think of his. Anyway.
Barry Gibb.
Oh,
from the Bee Gees.
Very leonine.
He's the OG
yes,
Lionhead.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't they, when they did it on Rock Profiles, do you remember the
I do remember.
Lucas and Williams pre-Little Britain, when they did the Bee Gees, they gave him a lion tail.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't think they ever commented on. It's just he had this tail swishing around because he's such a lion-headed man.
He is a lion-head.
Yeah.
He is. There must be other. Are there any other automotive line heads? Please write to us if you think there are.
Yeah, do get in touch with that one. hello@smithandsniff.com is the address.
Because we always want to know about important things in the industry.
Yes.
So I think people in the automotive sphere who look like lions is really important.
A patron called Chris M asks simply, what is the ultimate 80s PE teacher car?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a great question, isn't it?
I'm going to go straight in.
Yeah.
Wide arch Suzuki Vitara.
Oh.
So
PE teacher?
Yeah.
Male, female, or doesn't matter?
I think it's fairly unisex because as long as the male is like a sort of what you'd call a metrosexual, I suppose.
Okay.
So you'd have
in the 80s though.
Broad.
Okay.
They had the wide track job then, didn't you?
I think no. We were still at SJs at that point. But would you accept an SJ for this job?
Yeah, it could do because you know what? You could see them strapping all kinds of like weekend sports gear to it.
Okay.
So they could do. You know, I bet it was new in the 80s where they would do land windsurfing, which I've forgotten what it's called. But it's basically a go-kart with a sail.
What is that called?
I can't remember.
Not kite surfing because you do that in the sea. What is it?
A friend
yachting.
of mine did it and couldn't stop. And he went,
he's still missing, and this was 8 years ago.
Bless him, his party boy. He said he went so fast, his eyes were watering, he couldn't see anything.
Oh, God. Didn't have goggles on.
No, he didn't. He didn't have goggles on. And it was like a keen wind.
Oh.
Just couldn't bloody see.
Oh.
So I reckon one of those could be good because it would have a white vinyl top that you could, peel back. And it would have white steel wheels and maybe a jade green with some decals on.
I always think...
What are you thinking?
Male PE teachers in the 80s.
Yeah.
Possibly slightly ridiculous men. Slightly cheesy.
Yeah.
Slightly, like... Medallion-y.
Yeah.
Alpha male or sort of aspiring to be alpha male.
Yeah.
And...
aspiring alpha male.
So I'm seeing a white Manta.
Oh.
With white wheels.
Yeah, it's all white, yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm a bit stuck on female PE teacher of the 80s because the actual head of PE at my school had a brown MGB GT. And once, when some kids from the next nearest school, who were our hated rivals, came across the school field trying to pick a fight at lunchtime with kids from our school, she drove her MGB GT onto the playing field to disperse them.
Seriously?
I know. He just drove a car at some children, essentially. It was the maddest thing I'd ever seen. And it was a brown MGB GT.
So I'm thinking, what about first gen MR2?
Yes.
In white.
Oh, yeah.
Because I could see a really sporty lady in that.
Yeah, but I think that would go for the male teacher as well.
Yeah, it could actually, couldn't it?
There was something about...
Pop-up headlights, of course.
Male PE teachers... I don't know, I'm maybe speaking terribly ill of a whole class of person here, profession, but... I always think of male PE teachers in the 80s had a sort of very single man vibe about them.
Oh, yeah.
So there's no need for a practical family car because they're lone wolf.
And they're giving off pheromones left, right and centre.
Well, that's it, because and the tracky bottoms when all the squares who teach geography and English and maths and stuff have to wear suits.
Yeah.
And they get to wear tracky bottoms and sometimes might have a really big bunch of keys for some reason.
Yeah.
And that denotes power. Yeah, tout.
And at least 3 pairs of trainers, like Dunlop Green Flash, high-tech Silver Shadow. Do you remember those?
I can't picture them, but yes.
I'm sure some listeners will know.
Silver Shadow, like the Rolls Royce?
Yeah, the high-tech Silver Shadow. I'm bloody sure it's called as high... This would have been right in the middle of the 80s.
High-tech definitely, for some reason, and it's maybe we're completely off beam with this, but I think that for some particular reason that's not necessarily directly related to teaching sport,
high-tech
80s PE teachers often had slightly sporty cars. Would that be a fair assessment? So the MR2 definitely fits. Oh, Johnny's showing me. Oh, those. Yeah, were they called Silver Shadows?
They're called the Silver Shadow.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, and they're way less pedo than the actual Rolls Royce.
Yes, well, most things are.
Yeah, Silver Shadow.
I can't. What else were there? 80s. I think something sporty in white. It's a bit
80s.
cheesy and medallion-y.
It is medallion.
And so, also possibly admissible would still be a tail end Capri.
Yeah.
I would say
2 litre S.
in the 80s. Yes. Oh yeah, 2 litre S, not three. Not three.
No,
or 2.8.
it's too much.
No.
Too much.
2 litre.
Yeah.
And
This is fun. This game.
it's a good game, isn't it? We'd like to come back to this one. Well, also we could. I don't know, Chris, if you
Astra GTE.
yes.
Too much. Mark 1.
Oh, Mark 1. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not new.
Yeah.
And again,
it's white.
I was
Yeah,
going to
of
say
course
it
it's
has to be
white.
because cricket whites, tennis whites.
It's because it's a car that looks like sports
a lot
kit.
of trad sports kit is white.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's sports
Weird
kit
that.
white.
Why is it? Because it's easy to see against grass?
Or and is it sun reflection so that if you're out in direct sunlight, you don't bake?
I don't
Because
know.
cricketers wear white because presumably for that reason.
I
as well.
don't. I mean, it's impractical in a way for any game
It's
played on
ridiculous.
grass, particularly cricket. Is sort of diving about the place if you're fielding.
No, it's daft.
And you're rubbing the ball on your trousers. I mean, it's amazing that, like, if you were, I don't know, I can't think of any cricketers. Jimmy Anderson. Mm-hmm. His mum doesn't constantly come out and go, "What, Jimmy? I've just washed those. What are you doing? Stop rubbing the ball on it.
Yeah.
You're ruining those trousers, and they're new."
Don't some of them have a little cheeky towel that they used to scrub the ball with?
I thought that some of them used to carry bits of sand or grit or something in the pocket, and they would rub that on the ball, and it does something to the ball.
Yeah,
which,
because you can. This is a question. Actually,
You're listening to Test Match Special
Yeah.
with
Well,
two men who don't know anything about
We
cricket.
need to listen to Tailenders podcast.
With friend O the show, Greg James.
Yeah. I'm sure what they do is that you can roughen or polish one edge of the ball or one side of the ball.
And this is to get it spinning?
Yeah, for it to catch the wind and twist more one way.
Oh.
And it depends on your throwing technique, I guess. But
Throwing. I don't think it's called throwing.
bowling, throwing.
Bowling.
Hang on a minute.
Now,
Bowling is throwing. It's just a type of throwing.
The Smith is going to be the thrower here. Although actually, I was once forced at a thing to take part in a casual cricket match that I didn't want to take part in. I wanted to sit under a tree and drink a beer with some other people. And this guy who likes to force others to have fun
Oh, God.
insisted that some of us played cricket. And he went, "Go on, you can bowl." And I was like, "I don't want to bowl. I don't know how to bowl. And I don't want to play cricket. I want to sit over there with a beer." And he didn't take my grumpiness at this very well and went, "Come on, just bowl, all right?" And I was like, "I don't know how to bowl." So he went, just do whatever. So I just stood at one wicket and threw the ball at the batsman in a really cross way.
Really?
So he went, "Look, just go and sit down. You're not taking this seriously."
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Anyway,
Where were that? Was
don't know.
PE teachers'
We're still on PE
cars.
teachers' cars. It's such a good question. We'll take a break from that. David Marden is asking, it's one for you. He says, "What does Johnny use for stemware when he Molbeck mechanics?" David says, "I use a metal coffee mug."
What stemware?
I think he means just like, wine glass.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't want to take a spindly glass outside.
No.
Too easy to kick over.
Oh, God.
And
Yeah.
get damaged. So you could go camping spec.
Well,
which
yeah,
would be
so-
plastic.
Oh, plastic. Do you think... I'm going to pour myself, since we're talking about wine, a little
plastic
bit more
wine
here since
container.
we're recording at night.
Or
But do you not think sometimes wine tastes a bit off out of plastic?
yeah, I do.
Maybe this is where the metal coffee mug that David's talking about comes in. Perhaps that's not as bad.
Yeah, or an enamel. We've made them. Smith and Sniff merch sold them before. The enamel, the tin kind of workshop mug, which you can't smash,
Oh, yeah.
and they're really good for that.
One
Sort
of
of
those,
thing.
then.
Yeah, it could be one of those.
Probably David's answered his own question here. That's.
I'd quite like a tin flute. And I don't mean the musical instrument. I mean the champagne flute, made of tin.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, a tin flute.
Yeah, so I'm thinking a tin flute. I've been called worse.
Yeah.
And, so I'm thinking one of those.
It sounds like, I don't know, when I was a kid,
what are we talking about?
What?
I've got a hip flask.
A hip flask of wine?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Why not? With a really nice billet machine top.
Yeah.
And one of those sort of necklace satchels which it can sit in.
I see, you're talking like a bigger flask, like a sort of, like a desert water supply.
Yeah, that would carry a really large glass of red in, the equivalent of.
Yeah.
So it's around my neck, and I can choose to let it go, or I can just keep it slung around my neck, because I'm a lone wolf Malbec mechanic.
You could go all out and have a camel pack.
Oh, yeah.
Full of wine.
Yeah.
It's just got a tube. You've got a feeding tube off your back into your mouth, and you can just suckle on it to your heart's content.
I used to have one of those when I used to mountain bike here and there. But the problem is it gives off such a rubbery aftertaste.
I was going to say, they make water taste awful.
And you also look like a rubbish guitarist from the 80s.
What, with
that horrible drain sound? I don't know what it is.
I keep wanting to say theremin. It's not, is it?
It's like a mouth funnel. I don't know.
Frampton Comes Alive. What was that?
Yeah. Wow, 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 wow. It's a guitar mouth tube.
Yeah.
There are musicians that listen to this podcast. You know who you are.
Yes.
You'll be shouting and pointing at the phone or the screen, going, "Johnny, it's called a whatever guitar mouth organ."
It's anyway. Nick Davies, or Davies, I'm not sure. Says one of the great losses of the touchscreen revolution is that of the blank switches, aka poverty buttons.
Yes.
I have fond memories of sitting in my parents' car and imagining all the functions their LX was missing out on, including the ejector seat, naturally.
But also, it was the days when you could go to a scrapyard and get switch gear out of a higher-ranking car.
What, to sort of dummy it up to make your car look more luxurious?
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah. Or just have a bunch of auxiliary switches, I guess. But
Nick asks, did either of you get lost in the world of option brochures trying to work out what was missing, or sit in a car trying to work out what must be missing given the presence of the blank?
I'm actually... My bargain Boxster, which I will do an update video on the Late Break Show. It's actually in the edit as we speak. Part 3. That car has some blanking switches.
It's got switches sort of either side of the stereo in that. Yeah,
I think they are. And I don't know what they are. I could find out probably within minutes of looking in the brochure, which I have. I have the original brochure. But I just don't know. And every time I drive it, I go to press them thinking they're sort of stealth switches.
Oh, yeah, because they do. They're still buttons on, they just don't move. Yes,
yeah, and I'm like, I'll just do that. But that must have been towards the end of the blank switch era.
There was a very nice touch in the Rover 75 that along the base of the centre stack in front of the gear selector, you could get, and this is sometimes known in Rover 75 circles as a well-spec'd car would be known as having row of 5, as in all 5 possible buttons were there.
Oh.
But if it was 4 or 3, 2, 1, I think even maybe some cars came with none, the panel in which the switches sat was different. So there were no blanks.
Oh.
There was just smooth panel, but it didn't look as, there was no obvious missing button.
Yeah. So you didn't get laughed at for being base model.
I seem to remember, because I think, did my 75 have row of 5 or 4? Heated seats, so that got you 2 at the far extremes. Electric rear sunblind.
Nice.
Traction control. That was a rare one. And I think the button that selected the cruise control, switched it on or off, that was your full 5. That was your full house.
Row of 5.
So I think mine did have row of 5 because it had all those features.
You'll now find out that it was one of only 20 with that.
Yeah. Well, mine was quite a loaded up car because it was JDM spec.
Was it?
Yeah, all these 75s to quite high spec got on a boat to go to Japan, and while they were on their way over there, BMW sold Rover, and Rover Japan closed down or collapsed or just went, please don't send us these cars, and they got recalled back to the UK, and then they were quite useful extra stock while Rover then got busy transferring the production line from Cowley to Longbridge, which is no small undertaking, so there had to be a natural sort of pause in production. So these cars were converted back to UK spec.
Bloody hell.
But they were left as pretty well specified cars, but with a slightly anomalous specification that didn't quite fit any of the UK models. And this is how people sussed what they were a little bit. So they're like, wait a minute, we didn't get this or that. Or you probably could option them, but it's like, why? No one would. So yeah, that was a neat touch. But that was the opposite of the blanks game, because it was like there were no blanks. You could only sort of try and, as I've just done, try and work out what the full 5 would have been if you didn't have them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did used to sit. And I also remember that, I think Car Magazine pointed out that like the Cavalier, Vauxhall were terrible for switch blanks in the 80s, weren't they? I always remember sort of their dashboards felt like they were full of unused rectangles.
Yeah.
The Cavalier CD, like Mark II, I suppose, or maybe Mark III, CD or CDX, still had switch blanks and no options that would fill those blanks. So basically it's just like they were pointless blanks in the dash. It's almost like they future-proofed it for something or other, but I can't.
But it's also not fair if you've bought what is almost the top-ranking car.
Well, it is the de facto
yeah,
top
so
of the
you're
range,
like going,
still got
but I
switch blanks.
Can't buy what might go in there.
Yeah. No, I know, that isn't fair. We just go, well, we go, what future invention did you think was going to go there?
It's a good question to ask, is are there any new cars on sale now which have obvious parts missing because you just can't afford it or you didn't buy that model?
I think it's off sale now, but the VW Up still...
That had still lots of physical buttons.
Had buttons, and so, yeah, you could miss out on buttons if you didn't have, lower spec ones didn't have heated seats, and I think that would leave you with blanks.
Because that era's got to be over.
Yeah,
because of everything being integrated into bloody screens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think sort of
the Panamera was good for lots of blanks.
Oh God, yeah, because it's
got that huge Starship Enterprise deck, which I never liked because it always looked like Quincy Jones's mixing desk. And I was like, it's just so many buttons. It's like a light aircraft that you've got to flick everything in. Well,
this is the thing. We complain about touchscreens sometimes, but actually when you think about how buttony, very well-spec'd, high-end, techie cars have become,
like that,
there is a happy medium.
Yeah.
And I would argue that even things like the electric mirror adjuster, particularly with a car with memory seats, you only really need to do that once to do the mirrors, and after that it should be fine. So why you could hide that away? That doesn't need a control if the manufacturers can't be bothered to say, because they want to save some money.
Yeah.
But yeah, other things would be nice to have buttons. I don't know. Actually, Boxsters still have, I think, blanky bits, don't they? That lovely GTS that I drove back from Le Mans, you went there in.
I think I had something.
I think that might have blanks. And I think if you didn't have like the sporty exhaust with the switchable thing, that would be a blank, wouldn't it? So there are still blanker cars out there, but we just fewer and fewer.
Blanker.
I don't know why I said blanker, but you know what I mean.
Next question.
Well, we can do one last one of those. Probably a bit complicated. Alexandros Theodorou, he sent questions in before, and I probably mispronounced his name that time as well. But he asks, best car interior (brackets modern and classic). My vote is for the Mark III Audi TT, but I'm biased because I own one. Still feels bang up to date, helped by CarPlay, but doesn't have a billion screens. Because actually that just has the screens within the instrument pack, doesn't it? And then the dashboard is very sort of minimal.
Yeah.
And it's quite a neat solution.
Yeah. TT's dead now, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I was looking the other day. I suddenly had a bit of a crave on, for no apparent reason, for... I think it's partly inspired by staying with your friend Lewis, and his family's got that lovely TT Mark I Roadster.
Yeah, nice.
And I started going, one of those for the summer. I know they didn't drive as well as a Boxster, but they were all right, and they just look great now, these Mark Is, and they are, properly edging into modern classic territory.
Oh, they're a pretty car.
And there is, when I looked a week or so ago, there was a green first-gen TT Roadster with the baseball glove interior.
Oh, my God.
On somewhere, eBay or somewhere for sale.
How much was that?
I think it was up for $5.
Well, that's Boxster territory, though.
Well, everything's Boxster territory. That's the problem, is that everything's Boxster territory. I was going, I'll get a Honda S660. Oh, they're about like 14 grand. Well, that's good Boxster territory.
I know, having lived, driven mine a lot in the last couple of weeks because of the weather being good.
Yeah,
that is the problem. It drives so well.
It's just
even when it's done high
a conservatory
miles.
extension is going to be 30 grand. Well, that's Boxster territory, mate. Everything's Boxster territory.
It's all Boxster territory.
I was going to buy a brand new Range Rover for £100,000. Well, that's Boxster territory, and then you can have a nice holiday.
Yeah.
Got
a point.
I don't. Best car interior. I mean, what's good in a modern car interior? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I can't think I've got anything amazing. In the old days, do you remember when like the 322 Range Rover came out, and that was genuinely quite a sort of like, yeah, this is nice kind of interior. And
yeah.
What was that? There was a BMW that had a really good interior. BMW interiors are still quite good, actually. Their exterior design is shocking at points, but the interiors have stayed pretty strong.
Consistently pretty good, yeah.
I don't know.
And they still have some buttons. They haven't gone full screen integration, have they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, it's a bit predictable, I suppose, to say, but like there's still, you look in the Bentley Continental GT and you go, I mean, I defy you to say that's not a nice interior.
Oh, the cabin's amazing.
Really nice.
Yeah. And as we've said tons of times before, because it's so true to me, is when the Conti GT started, I did not like the look of it. Did not like. I never thought it looked particularly expensive. It just didn't just like have the presence I wanted it to. But 3, 4, how many generations later? Now it just looks right.
Yeah, and they get nicer to drive as well.
Yeah, it
That's
just
a
looks
car
right.
that's
It's not a car I wouldn't want
upwards,
an older one. I just wouldn't want one.
Every so often I go, well, what if, because they're getting quite unexpensive now. Inexpensive would be a better word. And
to buy initially. Yeah.
Anyway, well, there we go.
I know.
It's just Bentley Continental GT is the answer for some reason. Right, we should stop this, but thank you ever so much for listening. We'll answer more of your questions next week, and we'll be back with the regular show on Monday, or it might be a best of on Monday. I can't remember. I'm so out of sync, I simply don't know which way is up.
Well, either way, thank you for listening to Otosot, and if you've got a question for us, you can email us. It's amazing how this technology works now. Go to hello@smithandsniff.com. Yes, that's right. I had to pause and just double check. That's right.
He's right. Do it. And until next time, goodbye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks, mate. And of course, bye.
On the other side of things.